Welcome back to Snetterton for the third and final race of the weekend. The grid for this race dictated as per the finishing positions for race 2 of the weekend, which means that it's Jacopo Sebastiani on pole position and Shane Kelly alongside George Lyne and Stuart Wiltshire on row 2, with Robbie Watts and the charging Wade Eastwood on row 3. Cian Carey has Gino Ussi for company on row 4, and it's Mark Harrison and Tony Bishop that will lock horns on row number 5. The cars are on the grid, the green flag has been waved at the back, the red lights are about to come on now, and for the final time we're about to go racing at Snetterton. A great start again from pole position from Jacopo Sebastiani. Again slower away was Shane Kelly, who, a bit like race 1, just didn't get the car off the line when the lights went out, and Stuart Wiltshire is attacking for the lead on the route towards Ritchie's for the first time, but it will be Jacopo Sebastiani that leads the pack round through the right-hander for the first time and is looking to try and strengthen his stranglehold on the championship. It's Stuart Wiltshire in second place, Wade Eastwood side by side with George Lyne for third and fourth place. I think slipping down to 7th, unfortunately, was Shane Kelly from the outside of the front row of the grid again. When the lights went out, he just didn't get the car off the line as well as he would have wished. Unlike Jacopo Sebastiani on the front row of the grid, who has made fantastic starts in all 3 races so far this weekend. Changing the order for third place as George Lyne gets on the inside of Wade Eastwood. Wade trying to fight back on the exit of the corner, so those two still locking horns over what is third and fourth place at the moment, whilst Jacopo Sebastiani is starting to pull away from the rest of the pack, which are still embroiled within their individual battles. This is Tony Bishop fighting away with Dave Gillett, and right behind them is the number 9 car of Baptiste Leonard as well. So they are still trying to work out as to who is going to just occupy the final couple of places inside the top 10, whilst the overall race leaders are now stretching their legs onto the Bentley Straight for the first lap. Jacopo Sebastiani has led every lap of every race so far this weekend, and Stuart Wiltshire at the moment in second place has got his hands rather full of George Lyne, who is there in third place. Wade Eastwood's in fourth place, Robbie Watts in 5th place, and by the look of things it looks as though that's Cian Carey that's there in 6th place. Yeah, you can see the Irish flag on the rear wing of his car when it disappears away from you. Gino Ussi is in 7th place, then it's going to be Shane Kelly, by the look of things, the slow starting car, that's down to 8, so he's left himself a huge chunk of work to do in this one. Over the start-finish line they will very shortly go, and George Lyne now coming under pressure from Wade Eastwood, who's trying to fight back. They're both picking up the slipstream of the car ahead, which is Stuart Wiltshire, and this might just allow Jacopo Sebastiani to pull away. George Lyne and Wade Eastwood side by side through Ritchie's corner. Around the outside goes Wade Eastwood to take third place away. Well, having lost the position down at Agostini on the lap prior, he returns the favour to George Lyne and reasserts himself back into the final podium place once more, ahead, of course, of the reigning champion who finished on the podium for the first time this season, last time out. So through the left-hander at Palmer, they'll work their way. Wade Eastwood, now that he's got himself ahead of George Lyne, is trying to pull away and gap the car of George Lyne, who is coming under an ever-increasing amount of pressure now already by Robbie Watts, who is pretty close to him as they turn their way through Agostini this time through. The top half a dozen, though, are still on the same straight between the exit of Agostini and the entrance to Hamilton, so still not huge amounts of daylight between them all. But for Robbie Watts, if he can get himself into the slipstream of George Lyne through Williams, that's the critical part of the circuit, because that is what gives you the run then onto the Bentley Straight. And Wade Eastwood this time in third place has got a good toe here. He's going to pick up the slipstream off Stuart Wiltshire and might be able to propel himself through into second place. He's sitting directly behind the largely grey and red car. Jinks out from behind to try and get the inside line, but then realises yet that the straight is running out. So for the moment, he's got to be patient. He's got to be content with third position. Bounces over the curbs as they turn their way through Nelson. He needs to attack and defend at the same time, because he's got reigning champion George Lyne right behind him. And as they then thread their way through the right-hander at Coram, it is still that white and light blue car of Jacopo Sebastiani, already twice a race winner this weekend, that continues to lead from Stuart Wiltshire in second position. Third at the moment is still going to be the car of Wade Eastwood, who is still under pressure from George Lyne. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Sebastiani from Wiltshire, Wade Eastwood from George Lyne, then Robbie Watts, who's got Cian Carey still very close for company. That black car, but with its green flashes in the hands of the Irishman. So that's the top 6, all still within touching distance of each other. Again, Wade Eastwood closes ever more onto the gearbox of Stuart Wiltshire as they headed onto the brakes at Wilson, and then up the short straight up towards the left-hander at Palmer. This is now just allowing Jacopo Sebastiani in the lead of the race to pull away, because Stuart Wiltshire and Wade Eastwood at the moment are concentrating on squabbling over second and third places, which is slowing them down and just allowing already 2 times race winner this weekend Sebastiani to pull away ever more. Out of Agostini they'll go. George Lyne is not too far away as well. He would dearly like to try and get himself into the podium places again if at all he can. But up towards Oggies, through the right-hander they'll go, and then it's the right-hand sweep again at Williams, and This is the important part for Wade Eastwood. He's not quite as close this time through as he was, I don't think, on the lap prior. And on the lap prior, he couldn't quite get the job done before they headed into the braking area for Brundle and Nelson. Down the Bentley Straight they'll go. No such trouble of watching in his mirrors for Jacopo Sebastiani. Again, Wade Eastwood just jinks out from behind Stuart Wiltshire, but that's more to distract Stuart Wiltshire rather than an opportunity to try and work his way through and past. He's ever closer, though, as they head out of Brundle and Nelson this time. 3 now fighting away for what is second, third and fourth position, and you can see just how much this has allowed Jacopo Sebastiani to build his advantage. Daylight between himself and then a trio fighting over second, third and fourth place, with Wade Eastwood again much braver on the brakes, much deeper into the corner but slower coming out as a result of it. So Stuart Wiltshire is able to gain momentum on the way out of the corner, having lost it on the way in. Over the start-finish zone they'll go. Order still remaining the same. Wiltshire under pressure from Wade Eastwood. Wade Eastwood has got the number 1 car of George Line, that red and white car, right with him as they turn their way through what is Ritchie's corner, and from there, of course, they're onto the brakes and up towards the right-hander at Wilson, the renamed corner. It used to be called Montreal, but now named Wilson after the late great Justin Wilson, who Jonathan Palmer, owner of Snetterton, did so much for in his early career. So through Palmer they'll go, and then starting to head down the short straight in towards the braking area for Agostini. Stuart Wiltshire all of a sudden has had a better first half of this lap than Wade Eastwood, so the gap between second and third has just come out a little bit. Wade Eastwood still under pressure though from George Line, sits behind in fourth place. Fifth place is now Cian Carey, so Cian Carey's got himself ahead of Robbie Watts somewhere around the circuit, so the Irishman gaining the place, that being fifth at the moment, and Robbie Watts down to sixth, but plenty of time for him to return the favour if he chooses to do so, as they again turn their way through the right-hander at Williams onto the Bentley Straight yet again. Here is Mark Harrison squabbling away still with Tony Bishop. They've had pretty much a race-long battle so far, and Dave Gillard is not too far away as well at the wheel of the blue and yellow machine, so that little trio just making their way onto the Bentley Straight. And are we going to have any shuffles in the order? Well, they are picking up the slipstreams from each other, but again, I suspect that catching is one thing, getting past down the Bentley Straight is probably another. Robbie Watts, having had to give second best to the Irishman Cian Carey, now needs to make sure he doesn't drop further down through the order, because the number 10 car of Gino Ussi is not too far away. As over the start-finish line goes Jacopo Sebastiani, and what is still this great battle for second and third place. Wade Eastwood has gathered his thoughts, is starting to attack again the car of Stuart Wiltshire as they come over the start-finish line, picks up a good toe again towards the top end of the Senna Straight, but frustratingly isn't quite close enough again, so Stuart Wiltshire still managing to hang on to the place. As for the trio further back, the order still remains the same. Mark Harrison, Tony Bishop and then Dave Gillett, but they might be fighting for places down towards the bottom of the top 10, but it's a super little battle where they're really having to roll their sleeves up and slug it out between each other as they turn their way round through Ritchie's corner. Our race leader is already on his way down towards Agostini, with again Stuart Wiltshire in second place, having to just watch his mirrors. Wade Eastwood is there or thereabouts, a very slight snatch brake, the unloaded wheel from the car in third position in the hands of Wade Eastwood. Then he turns his way up towards the left-hander at Hamilton. Is he going to have a quick look here? No, thought about it, I thought briefly, as they head in towards Oggies, and he's going to try and get the overlap on the way out, is he? No, Stuart Wiltshire is wise to that. Wade Eastwood can't quite get the job done there, but he's as close as he's been this time round through Williams, and this could be the pivotal lap as far as Wade Eastwood is concerned, because he's absolutely in the slipstream of Stuart Wiltshire. And is he going to try a move this time as they head up towards Brundle and Nelson? He's as close as he's been. He has again a very quick look, more to distract the car ahead rather than anything else. Elsewhere down through the order, Cian Carey and Robbie Watts go wheel to wheel, and it looks so Robbie Watts has picked the pocket of the Irishman and returned the favour. I thought he might, and he goes through to retake up another place. So Robbie Watts back up to fifth, Cian Carey back down into sixth position at the moment, and Gino Ussi not quite close enough to capitalise either. He remains just a little bit further adrift in seventh place at the wheel of his number 10 machine. So over the start-finish line comes a trio that is now fully forward for second, third and fourth position, because George Line has managed to catch back up again with both Stuart Wiltshire and Wade Eastwood, largely because they've been squabbling away again. So it's three fighting over what are just two podium places. Then it's Robbie Watts back in fifth position, Cian Carey right on his bootlid in sixth position, as this time Wade Eastwood tries the outside line at Wilson, needs to make sure he closes the door on what is George Line as well. So great fighting going on, and well, for Wade Eastwood, he's got to attack and defend, and how many times have we said that so far this weekend? Look at how close he is to Stuart Wiltshire. The tail end of his Dallara wagging a little bit under acceleration as he tries to get the power on, and he needs to, because George Line this time is having a look. Had a quick look one way, had a look the other, then tries the outside line to try and cut back on the exit of the corner, does Wade Eastwood. Needs to be careful that he doesn't make contact with the nose of George Line, who poked it up the inside briefly and then decided that, yeah, maybe discretion is the better part of valour here in what is a great little fight that's been really building over the course of the last few laps. Sideways moment again from Wade Eastwood. Now either the tyres are giving up the ghost or he's just planting his right foot on the pedal a bit too early. He's under pressure from George Line. He's also picking up the slipstream from the car in second place. Handsome lead for Jacopo Sebastiani, but look at the fight heading down the Bentley Straight for second, third and fourth place. George Line attacks Wade Eastwood, who tries to jink up the inside of Stuart Wiltshire and takes second place away as Wade Eastwood. So up to second for Wade Eastwood through Nelson. Again, he's a little bit sideways coming out of the corner. Stuart Wiltshire down to third, but under pressure from the number one car of George Line, and all of this is bringing Robbie Watts into the mix as well. So great little squabble going on, almost four cars for second, third, fourth and fifth, pretty much together as they thread their way through Corham onto the brakes, through the left-hander at Murray's and start to accelerate and go back up through the gears once more. Over the start-finish line, Wade Eastwood in second place now, but can he hang on to it? Because I'm sure Stuart Wiltshire, George Line and Robbie Watts will all have other ideas about keeping the order the way it is at the moment, and all of this really has allowed Jacopo Sebastiani to make good his escape and potentially head towards what would be a clean sweep of victories here, a hat-trick of wins at Snetterton. We saw Wade Eastwood do that at Silverstone earlier on in the year. We saw Shane Kelly do it at Donington Park earlier on in the year. Well, Jacopo Sebastiani is looking as though he's going to be the third driver this year that has made it a clean sweep of victories over the course of a treble header weekend, which it is this weekend. Towards the braking area for the left-hander at Agostini go the quartet, fighting over second, third, fourth and fifth position. Sixth place is Cian Carey. He's not that far behind either. In fact, there goes the Irishman just through the bottom of the shot, and Gino Ussi is pretty much within touching distance of him as well. So whilst it's four at the moment for second through to fifth place, if they hold each other up, don't rule out the fact that Cian Carey and Gino Ussi might join in the mix as well. So they slide their way out of Williams onto the Bentley Straight once more. Robbie Watts looking to try and pick up the toe from the car ahead. Half the length of the Bentley Straight is the advantage that Jacopo Sebastiani has now built up between himself and Wade Eastwood in second place, who's now been released a little bit from the clutches of Stuart Wiltshire. So it's sort of Wade Eastwood and then a slightly larger gap before we then see a trio, which is Stuart Wiltshire, George Line and the charging car in the hands of what is Robbie Watts, as they then turn their way up towards the conclusion of yet another lap once more through the right-hander at Corham, onto the brakes, in towards the left-hander at Murray's. The fight for third, fourth and fifth continues, albeit still in the same order. Stuart Wiltshire sitting in third place, the red and white car of George Line, the champion from last year, in fourth place. The blue machine with its silver flashes, Robbie Watts, in fifth place, whilst just up the road from them still is the second place car, Wade Eastwood, but by the look of things his advantage has grown by about another half a car length that time through, as the trio behind slow each other up. Here is the fight for places down towards the bottom of the top 10. This is Oliver Cyril making his debut in the championship, fighting away with championship regular Dave Gillette. Dave we've seen in the top six on a couple of occasions so far this year, but Oliver is ahead of him as things currently stand. Those two threading their way through Ritchie's, whilst the pack for second, third, fourth and fifth are into the braking area for Agostini. Nobody quite close enough to attack the other as they head through the left-hander. Then they will squirt the accelerator and head up towards Hamilton. As into the pit lane has come Tony Bishop. So Tony Bishop in the pit lane has had a bit of a difficult weekend really, what with spins and puncture and of course then this trip to the pit lane. It's been a bit of a weekend to forget for him. Race continues though, whilst he's in the pit lane, and back onto the Bentley Straight goes the second, third, fourth and fifth place battle. There's Jacopo Sebastiani already turning his way through Brundle, and only now heading up towards the vehicle bridges Wade Eastwood, who looks fairly safe now, doesn't he, in second place. He has opened up the daylight between himself and Stuart Wiltshire in third place, who can also breathe a bit of a sigh of relief because George Line is not quite close enough to attack again this time through. So through the bomb hole again they will thread their way, and Jacopo Sebastiani, it is looking as though it is going to be potentially a perfect weekend here at Snetterton. 3 races, 3 pole positions, and well, at the moment 2 race wins under his belt, his first 2 of the season, and he is now heading over the start-finish line onto yet another lap here, and you can see the advantage that he has between himself and Wade Eastwood in second place is one where he doesn't particularly need to panic at this stage. So through Ritchie's corner goes what is the fight for third, fourth and fifth position, with with Robbie Watts now not really applying as much pressure to George Line as he was doing a lap or so ago. The number 7 car in the hands of the man from Thundersley in Essex just seems to have settled in a little bit more. And as they then thread their way out of the left-hander at Palmer, again up towards Agostini, nobody is going to be quite close enough, so the gap's just starting to space out now between what is 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th position. That is a spin, and that's car number 18, Dave Gillette, that's got off, and looks as though as long as he can get the car fired back into life, he should be able to continue in the race. Yes, so a quick rotation for the number 18 car. He will be able to continue, but that will drop him back down the order once more. Comes up towards the braking area for what is Brundle and Nelson, and this is Cian Carey looking to try and pull a move on Robbie Watts, and he's been able to squeeze his way through there. So Cian Carey, the Irishman, through and ahead of Robbie Watts, who seems to have lost a bit of pace all of a sudden. He's now coming under pressure from Gino Ussi. So 3 as 1 turning their way through the bomb hole. Now quite what the problem is with Robbie Watts, but all of a sudden he seems to have got off the boil, has lost time to these 2 cars here, that being Stuart Wiltshire and George Line, who he was doing battle with a few moments ago, but he really has lost a bit of time there somewhere along the way. As Wade Eastwood goes over the start-finish line, the fight now really is for the final podium place. For 2nd and for 3rd, Stuart Wiltshire will have to stick his elbows out if he wants to hang on to it. George Line desperate to try and grab another podium if he can. And as they then turn their way pretty much nose to tail out of Wilson and up the short straight towards the left-hander at Palmer, Stuart Wiltshire has still got plenty of work to do here. He is not close enough to Wade Eastwood to attack anymore. You can see the relative gap between himself and the 2nd place car just up the road, so it really is now just for 3rd or 4th position really for Stuart Wiltshire. George Line not too far away. As long as Stuart just focuses and looks to try and keep the gap where it is, then it's going to make it very, very difficult for George Line to try and pick his pocket. So through Hamilton in towards the braking area for the right-hander at Oggies once more. By the look of things, further down through the order, another little squabble going on. This is the Magic Motorsport Dallara of Mark Harrison, who has got his hands rather full of the aspirations of Baptiste Leonard, another driver who is making his debut in F3 Cup this weekend, but it is still just about the black car with its red flashes in the hands of Mark Harrison that hangs on to the place. And well, for Baptiste Leonard, he is going to have to work out elsewhere as to where he might be able to squeeze his Dallara F308 through and past the similar car of Mark Harrison. Out of the left-hander at Agostini, the 2 of those go up towards the left-hander at Hamilton, and well, it doesn't look as though Leonard is quite close enough this time as they head in towards the braking area for the right-hander at Oggies. So for the moment, Mark Harrison still hangs on to 9th place, and the blue and white car of Baptiste Leonard sits behind. Over the start-finish line goes our race leader, Jacopo Sebastiani. He is almost going to put a lap on Shane Kelly by the look of things. So Shane Kelly, a back marker, not very often we've said that in F3 Cup over the course of the last few seasons, but clearly there's some sort of issue with his car which is hampering his progress in this one, as down towards the tail end of the field we've still got this great fight going on. These are fighting, as we say, for what are 9th and 10th positions. Dave Gillette is going to be there in 11th place, and poor old Shane Kelly, the last of the runners, in 12th place. And well, Mark Harrison has got his hands very, very, very full. Baptiste Leonard looking one way, looking the other. Mark Harrison having none of it as they thread their way again over the start-finish line. Still the black Dallara just ahead of the white and blue machine as they head over the start-finish line, ready to start another lap. And this will be their last lap as well. So through Richie's corner they'll go. Who's going to finish in 9th, who's going to finish in 10th is still very much up for dispute. And as they head into the braking area for what is Wilson, Baptiste Leonard carves his way up the inside of Mark Harrison. They switch back on the exit of the corner by the look of things. Yeah, both almost out-braking each other, but looks as though Baptiste Leonard is just going to squeeze his way through and take the place away by the look of things. However, unfortunately, he has been given a 10-second penalty for being out of position at the start, and that means that whilst he has gone through and ahead of Mark Harrison on the road, add 10 seconds to his time and it ultimately will not affect his finishing position. Here we go, we've got the fight is most definitely on for what is 5th, 6th and 7th place. Robbie Watts, Cian Carey, Gino Ussi all together. Remember, this is the last lap of the race as well, and Robbie Watts desperate to try and hang on to 5th place if he can, but the win, 3 on the bounce, goes the way of Jacopo Sebastiani, who doesn't quite lap Shane Kelly in the end. Wade Eastwood comes through and finishes in 2nd place in what's been a tough weekend for him. And Third will go the way of the hard-charging Stuart Wiltshire ahead of George Lyne. Who's going to finish in 5th place? It is on the sprint to the line. Robbie Watts, who just comes through and finishes in 5th place ahead of Cian Carey in 6th place, and Gino Ussi just outside of the top 6 in 7th place. Well, for Jacopo Sebastiani, he came to Snetterton as the championship leader, and with 3 pole positions under his belt and 3 race wins, he further strengthens his lead in the championship. Confirmation of the results, Jacopo Sebastiani takes the win with Wade Eastwood in 2nd and Stuart Wiltshire in 3rd. George Lyne in 4th place ahead of Robbie Watts, Cian Carey, Gino Ussi, Oliver Surrell, Mark Harrison and Baptiste Leonard, who complete the top 10. Perfect weekend as far as Gino Ussi is concerned, but a delighted Stuart Wiltshire heads onto the podium in 3rd place. 2nd place goes the way of Wade Eastwood. He heads onto the podium, and himself and Stuart Wiltshire congratulate each other on what was a very hard-fought race. The top step of the podium, however, is reserved for our race winner. 3 times a race winner, unbeaten this weekend in the sunshine at Snetterton, and led every lap. Jacopo Sebastiani receives his trophy from Anders Hildebrand of the Anglo-American Oil Company, and 3 happy-looking drivers on the podium with their trophies and their bottles of champagne, which means now it's time for them to celebrate what has been a great weekend here at Snetterton. Let's hear from our podium drivers.
I could not have asked for anything more. Absolutely. It's been fantastic. The car has been phenomenal. The team is unbelievable. Huel, you're a star. And the teammates are even more unbelievable. Thank God they were behind me, because otherwise it would have been really, really hard. And yeah, it's been just fantastic.
Yeah, tough weekend with no quali and no first race. 7 races behind now in the championship, but flawless weekend by Jacopo. He did the triple and he deserves it. He worked really hard, and team did a great job sorting the car out. I was really quick on the at the finish, but a little too late.
Some great moves there as well. Stuart made it quite hard for you.
Very hard, yeah. Light contact, but all very fair, and it was good racing, really good racing.
You impressed with your pace this weekend?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I've jumped from the 12 back into the 8, and it's immediately shown. So I'm really pleased. It's been a great weekend.
Looking forward to Brands?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great stuff. Well done, guys. Congratulations on some really good action this weekend. 3rd place for Stuart Wiltshire, 2nd place for Wade Eastwood, but triple winner here at Snetterton, Jacopo Sebastiani, who take the championship lead to Brands Hatch in a couple of weeks' time.